My name is Alex, and I live in the picturesque, soul-crushingly beige neighborhood of Sycamore Glen. We have precisely 3 approved shades of beige for our house's mandated grass height, and an HOA so powerful it probably has its own seat at the UN. The president of this regime is Brenda. Brenda is a walking, talking stereotype. Blonde bob sharp enough to slice cheese, oversized sunglasses that hide a soul powered by pure pettiness, and a perpetual frown that looks like she's just smelled something foul. Which, to be fair, she probably has. It's the scent of non-compliance. I'm a pretty live and let live guy. I keep my grass at regulation height, my trash cans are hidden from view except on sanctioned collection days, and my mailbox is the approved Colonial Williamsburg model in matte black. I thought I was safe. Then, for my birthday, my best friend Mike, who knows I hate the oppressive conformity of this place, gifted me a garden gnome. Not just any gnome. This was Bartholomew, a magnificently detailed gnome with a cheeky grin, fishing by a tiny pond. He was a little splash of personality in a sea of beige. I placed him discreetly near a shrub in my front flower bed. He was cute, harmless. 3 days later, the first letter arrived. It wasn't emailed. It was hand-delivered in a crisp, cream-colored envelope, as if it contained a wedding invitation, not a declaration of war. Sycamore Glen Homeowners Association. Official violation notice #2023-045B. Dear resident of 4221 Wisteria Way, it has come to the attention of the Architectural Review Committee that you have placed an unauthorized lawn ornament, Class 3, figurine, on your property without prior submission and approval of Form 12C, application for non-floral yard accoutrements. Specific violation, Bylaw 14, Section 8, Paragraph 2. No statuary, figurines, or other representational art shall be displayed on any lot without the express written consent of the ARC. This includes, but is not limited to, gnomes, flamingos, cherubs, and or any depiction of mythical creatures. You have 48 hours to remove the offending item. Failure to comply will result in a fine of $50, with an additional $50 levied for each subsequent day the violation remains. Sincerely, Brenda Schiffley, President.
Sycamore Glen Hoa.
I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. A Class 3 figurine? They had classes for this? I considered just moving Bartholomew to the backyard, but the sheer audacity of the letter got under my skin. This was my property. My little 30 by 40 plot of the American dream, and I couldn't put a 10-inch tall gnome on it? So I did nothing. I left Bartholomew right where he was, fishing happily. The next day, another letter. The fine had been applied. The day after that, another. Brenda was personally depositing these letters in my mailbox. I'd see her cruising the neighborhood in her white Lexus SUV, moving at a glacial pace, her head on a swivel, looking for infractions. Her license plate? Oh, a boss. I am not even kidding. I decided to engage. Big mistake. I emailed her, politely asking for clarification.
Y Brenda, y Uruta.
I received your notices regarding my garden gnome. I'm curious, as I've seen several other homes with seasonal wreaths, wind chimes, and even a small Buddha statue. Are these also in violation? Her response was a masterpiece of bureaucratic arrogance. From president.sycamoreglenhoa@email.com to Alex. Subject: violation notice #2023-045B. Alex, those homeowners have filed the requisite Form 12C and received approval. Your gnome was not submitted for review. The rules apply to everyone equally. The continued accrual of fines is evidence of your willful disregard for our community's standards. Furthermore, the Buddha statue at 4215 Wisteria Way was approved under a religious exemption clause, Bylaw 14, Sector 8, Subpara D, after the homeowner provided a notarized letter from their spiritual leader. Do you have a spiritual leader who can attest to the sanctity of your gnome? Regards, Brenda Schiffley, HOA President. The pettiness was breathtaking. She'd basically called my gnome a false idol. This was no longer about a gnome. It was a power trip. Then the flying monkey arrived. Her name was Carol, Brenda's next-door neighbor and the HOA secretary. She started taking evening strolls that always seemed to pause directly in front of my house. She'd pull out her phone and clearly take pictures of the gnome of my lawn. Once I swear of a single dandelion that had dared to bloom. The fines kept coming. I was up to $350. I stopped laughing. I'm a project manager for a legal tech firm. My entire job is finding inefficiencies, parsing dense documents, and building airtight cases. Brenda had just picked a fight with the wrong nerd. I stopped engaging with her emails. Instead, I went to the county clerk's office and got a full, official copy of the Sycamore Glen Covenants, Conditions and Restrictions, CC and RS, and the HOA bylaws. I poured over 120 pages of the most soul-draining prose ever written, and I started documenting everything. I set up a small, discreet security camera facing my front yard. I logged every fine, every letter, every stroll by Carol with timestamps and photos. I created a spreadsheet. It was beautiful. And then I struck gold. Or rather, I found Brenda's kryptonite. While cross-referencing bylaws, I found 2 gems. Bylaw 7, Section 1, no structure, including sheds, fences, or permanent play equipment, shall exceed 6 feet in height without ARC approval. I thought. I remembered something. Bylaw 3, Section 4, no commercial vehicles, boats, trailers, or recreational vehicles shall be parked on any lot or on the common street for more than a 24-hour period. A recreational vehicle. I smiled. A wide, genuine smile for the first time in weeks. You see, Brenda's teenage son, Chad, a human personification of a participation trophy, drove a jacked-up Ford F-250 truck so enormous it probably had its own zip code. And it was perpetually parked in their driveway or often jutting out into the street. It was a rolling violation. But the real jackpot was in her backyard. Using Google Maps satellite view, I could clearly see her pergola. It wasn't a pergola. It was a full-blown, roof structure with a built-in outdoor kitchen and a massive TV. I got a tape measure and, using the known size of her patio bricks from a public listing photo, did some rough calculations. That thing was easily 10 feet tall. And I knew, with absolute certainty, she had never submitted plans for it. She was the ARC. She was the approval process. The hypocrisy was glorious. A monthly HOA board meeting was coming up. I decided to attend, armed with my binder of evidence. The meeting was held in a community clubhouse that smelled of lemon-scented disinfectant and quiet desperation. Brenda ran the meeting with the iron fist of a minor despot. They discussed the urgent issue of mulch color. Dark brown was now mandated, light brown was banned, and heard an appeal from a poor man who was fined because his garbage can lid was open a whole inch. Then, Brenda opened the floor for resident concerns. I raised my hand. "Alex," she said, her voice dripping with fake politeness. "I see you've finally decided to join us. Here to finally pay your outstanding fines." A few of her sycophants tittered. I stayed calm. "Actually, Brenda, I'm here to discuss a few violations I've observed. I've been reading our bylaws, and it's really opened my eyes." I saw her eyes narrow. "This isn't the forum for that. If you have a complaint, you need to file form." "I think it's the perfect forum," I said cheerfully, cutting her off. I held up a printed satellite photo. "For instance, Bylaw 7, Section 1 clearly prohibits structures over 6 feet without approval. Could you please clarify the approval process for the permanent roof structure in your backyard? It appears to be well over the height limit." The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Brenda's face flushed a deep, dangerous crimson. "That is a pergola," she spat. "It's exempt. According to the definition in the bylaws," I said, tapping my binder. "A pergola is an open-air structure with an unroofed lattice. Yours has a solid roof and walls. It also contains a built-in natural gas grill and plumbing for a sink, which, under Appendix C, qualifies it as an outdoor dwelling extension, requiring separate permitting from the ARC. I don't see those permits in the public records." Her mouth was opening and closing like a fish. I continued, And while we're on the topic of vehicles, Bylaw 3, Section 4 prohibits recreational vehicles. Could you define recreational vehicle? Would it include a lifted pickup truck with a gross vehicle weight rating over 10,000 pounds that is primarily used for personal use and is consistently parked in violation of the 24-hour rule? She slammed her hand on the table. How dare you? My son's truck is not your concern. This is a shameless attempt to deflect from your own repeated violations. I'm just asking for clarification, I said innocently. I believe in the rules. Don't you? You've said they apply to everyone equally. The looks on the faces of the other board members were priceless. They were seeing the cracks in the foundation. I planted the seed. I packed up my binder. Thank you for your time. I'll expect a written response to my inquiries. I walked out, leaving a room buzzing with muttered conversation behind me. And while we're on the topic of vehicles, Bylaw 3, Section 4 prohibits recreational vehicles. Could you define recreational vehicle? Would it include a lifted pickup truck with a gross vehicle weight rating over 10,000 pounds that is primarily used for personal use and is consistently parked in violation of the 24-hour rule? She slammed her hand on the table. How dare you? My son's truck is not your concern. This is a shameless attempt to deflect from your own repeated violations. I'm just asking for clarification, I said innocently. I believe in the rules. Don't you? You've said they apply to everyone equally. The looks on the faces of the other board members were priceless. They were seeing the cracks in the foundation. I planted the seed. I packed up my binder. Thank you for your time. I'll expect a written response to my inquiries. I walked out, leaving a room buzzing with muttered conversation behind me. The fines for the gnome mysteriously vanished from my account the next day. A small victory, but Brenda wasn't done. I ride a Harley-Davidson Softail. It's my pride and joy. I keep it in my garage, but sometimes on nice evenings, I'll roll it out onto my driveway to do some detailing. It's not loud, it's not leaking oil, it's just there. One Tuesday afternoon, I was doing just that. I had a crucially important Zoom call in about 20 minutes with none other than the state attorney's office. My company was pitching a new case management system for their entire district, a contract worth millions. This was a huge professional moment for me. I was in my driveway, wearing a button-down shirt and dress pants, with a cozy hoodie over it. Don't judge. Giving the chrome a last-minute wipe down before my call. That's when Chad, Brenda's son, came lumbering over. He was wearing a tank top and had the posture of a question mark. Sick bike, he grunted. Thanks, man, I said, not looking up from my work. My mom says you're a dick. Charming. I'm sure she did. No, for real. She says you're trying to get my truck towed. Your truck violates the HOA rules your mother enforces. Take it up with her. He kicked my tire. Not hard, but enough to make me look up. I want a ride. I'm not giving you a ride, Chad. I've got a meeting. Come on, man. Just around the block. He reached for the handlebars. I stood up and got between him and my bike. Dude, no. Get away from my bike. I'm not asking again. His face contorted into a scowl. You think you're so cool? This is a stupid old man bike anyway. He stomped off back towards his house, and I knew exactly where he was going. I rolled my eyes, finished up, and went inside to my home office. Right on time, I joined the Zoom call. My webcam was on, showing me in my professional setup with my company logo visible on the virtual background. The head of the SA's IT department and a deputy state attorney were on the screen. We were just getting into the meat of my presentation. And then I heard the sirens. 2 police cruisers pulled up to my house, lights flashing. My heart sank. I tried to ignore it and keep talking. As you can see on slide 4, the integration with the existing record system is seamless. My doorbell rang, insistently, then pounding on the door. The state attorney looked concerned. Mr. Evans, is everything all right? I am so sorry, I said, my face burning with a mixture of fury and humiliation. There seems to be some sort of situation at my door. Would you mind if I put you on hold for just one moment? They agreed, though they looked very uncomfortable. I muted my mic killed my video, and stormed to the front door. 2 officers were there, and standing behind them, with a look of triumphant venom, was Brenda. Chad was smirking next to her. "Are you Alex Evans?" one officer asked. "Yes, officer. What is this about?" "I'm in the middle of a very important meeting with the state attorney's office." Brenda couldn't contain herself. "He threatened my son," she shrilled. "He was screaming and threatening him, and he has an unregistered, loud motorcycle that he's operating illegally in the neighborhood. I demand you do something." The officer looked past me into my home office, where my large monitor was clearly showing the Zoom waiting screen with the state attorney's office logo. He looked back at me, in my dress shirt, and then at Brenda, hysterical on my doorstep. "Ma'am," the officer said, his voice tired, "what exactly is the emergency?" "He threatened Chad with violence. Is this true, sir?" the other officer asked me. "Absolutely not," I said, my voice calm but shaking with rage underneath. "Chad came onto my property and demanded I give him a ride on my motorcycle. When I refused and told him to get away from my bike, he kicked it and called it a stupid old man bike. Then he left. I never raised my voice. I never threatened him. I have a security camera that records audio right there," I said, pointing to the discreet camera under my eave. It captured the entire interaction. Brenda's face went from triumph to panic in a nanosecond. The first officer looked at Brenda. "You called 911 to report that a man wouldn't give your son a motorcycle ride?" "She said he was threatening," Brenda stammered, realizing her story was collapsing in real time. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my boss. "Alex, the SA office just called me. They said the police are at your house. What on earth is going on? They are not happy." My career was literally flashing before my eyes. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of this woman. "Officers," I said, my voice cold, "I will happily provide you with the footage. I would also like to press charges against Brenda Schiffley for filing a false police report and against her son for trespassing and attempted vandalism of my vehicle." The officer's demeanor changed completely. They were now looking at Brenda not as a complainant, but as a problem. "Ma'am, we're going to need to see that footage, and we're going to need you to come down to the station to give a statement." I gave them the footage on the spot from my phone app. It was crystal clear. You could hear Chad's demands, my calm refusals, and his petulant kick. No threats. Nothing. As the officers were explaining to a sputtering, furious Brenda that she was in serious trouble, I turned on my heel. "I have to go try to save my job," I said to no one in particular, and walked back inside, closing the door on the beautiful, chaotic scene. I got back on the Zoom call. I was flustered, humiliated, and livid. I decided on radical honesty. "Gentlemen, I cannot apologize enough. The president of my homeowners association just called the police on me with false allegations in what appears to be a campaign of harassment," which interrupted this call. "The officers have taken my statement and are dealing with her now." The deputy state attorney, an older man with a steely gaze, was silent for a moment. Then he said something I will never forget. "The state attorney's office has a unit dedicated to fraud and abuse of power. Mr. Evans, it sounds like you might have some evidence of both. Please, continue with your presentation. And good luck." I somehow finished the presentation. I don't know how I did, but I got through it. The fallout was swift. Brenda was charged with filing a false report. The story exploded on Nextdoor and our neighborhood Facebook group. I, of course, posted the video of the entire incident with the cops. The title, "HOA President Wastes Police Resources Because I Wouldn't Give Her Son a Motorcycle Ride." The community, long suffering under her reign, finally had a champion. They erupted. My inbox flooded with messages of support and stories of her petty tyrannies. A petition was started to remove her from the board. It gathered hundreds of signatures in hours. The other board members, sensing the shifting winds, threw her under the bus, claiming they were powerless against her strong-arm tactics. I provided my beautifully organized binder of her violations to the HOA's legal counsel. The unpermitted structure, the illegal truck, everything. There was an emergency board meeting a week later. It was held virtually because so many people wanted to attend. Over 300 households tuned in. Brenda Schiffley resigned effective immediately. Her parting message was a masterpiece of non-apology, blaming a vocal minority for bullying her out of her volunteer position. The board, now terrified of the mob, immediately motioned to dismiss all outstanding fines for minor aesthetic violations issued under Brenda's presidency. They formed a new committee to review and simplify the CC&RS. And me? I was voted in as the new head of the Architectural Review Committee. My first official act? ARC Ruling Number 001. Garden gnomes, flamingos, and all other Class 3 figurines are hereby reclassified as seasonal garden art and are explicitly permitted without prior approval, so long as they are not illuminated, animated, or overtly offensive. Bartholomew the gnome now sits proudly on my porch, wearing a tiny I Heart Suit HOA t-shirt that my friend Mike got made for him. As for my career, we landed the contract with the state attorney's office. The deputy attorney told my boss that anyone who could handle a situation with that much grace under pressure was someone they wanted to do business with. So Brenda the Kraken Schiffley tried to have me fined, fired, and arrested. And instead, she got me a promotion, got herself a criminal record, and liberated an entire neighborhood from the tyranny of beige. Sometimes justice is not only blind, but it also wears a cheeky grin and goes fishing. And it sounds really, really good on a Harley. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check your HOA bylaws. You never know what you might find.